All right, so we're going to be processing our soil samples now and getting some data from that besides what we got out in the field. And we have our data sheet here. Hopefully you can read that a little bit at least.
This is the soil data sheet that we used when we were out in the wetlands last week. And you can see we have some in situ measurements over here. We collected 3 soil samples. And what we're doing today is we're going to mass the foil and then put our wet samples on a foil tray that's labeled, and then we're going to mass that. So we'll have our wet mass measurement from this.
So I made these probably a little too big, but as you can see, they're already pre-labeled. So once we mass them, we can just transfer the soil and then remass. All right, so we're going to start with transect 1. So we put the foil, oh, sorry, I forgot to tear it. Always, even if it says 0, it's always good practice to tear. Okay. So our foil for T11 is 1.0, how many decimals do you usually do?
We can go out 3.
Okay, 1.070 grams is the units here. Okay. So we take our soil that you can see is T11. And yeah, we'll put it on there and then transfer it. We don't want any soil falling in there. It's always better to do it out. Okay, so the mass of our foil plus our wet soil is 202 grams. Sometimes you have to give it a few, well, no, it's going down even more. Let's just take what it was. Maybe it's evaporating very quickly.
Yeah, that's a low measure. Okay, so from the measures that we just took, you can subtract the foil mass from the foil plus wet mass. A lot of times we have very wet, sort of muddy samples, and so the final measurement that we'll take after this has air dried, and we'll also put it in oven at 100 degrees C for at least a couple hours to make sure it's completely dry in another week or so. And that will allow us to determine the soil moisture. But because the samples are wet, we get a lot of mud stuck on the foil, and so we have to mask the foil and the dry. So that's why you start out with a foil mass so that you can subtract that and take a difference and figure out a percentage. Okay, so now we're going to prep the other 3 samples so you can watch that. Probably a quick review.
Yeah, okay. So T12 is 0.930 grams for the foil.
And we'll do this, either we'll come back to the lab or we'll store the soil samples in a fridge or a freezer to make sure that they don't lose any moisture over the week. But we need to do this step as part of one of the initial labs.
Ooh, I think this one might be too heavy.
This scale only measures up to 50 grams, so we do need to remove, this is a good adaptation, so we do need to remove some of the sample so that we get it down below 50. Okay. And then you can put that We'll probably dry the extra because we may want to use it. We'll mass it too, or at least dry it because we may want to use it when we do our soil organic matter or our pH test. We may need extra soil. Okay.
So this is 44.948 grams. Do you want me to prepare more foil for the extra?
Yeah, we could do that.
Oh, I almost messed up there. Just be deliberate with every step.
That's right.
Okay. So our third sample foil is a big piece of foil. Is 1.175 grams. Oh, it's going up a little. Yeah, let's just stick with the initial.
So we're a little heavy, so we're removing a little bit of the sample too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right at the edge. But the good thing is when it dries, the mass is only going to go down, so 50.578 grams. All right.
Okay, so now we're going to leave these samples on a tray to dry, air dry, and then before we finalize our moisture measurements, we'll put the samples in a low temperature, 100 degrees centigrade oven for at least a couple hours. They'll mostly be dry, and then we'll mass them again dry, and then we can use a calculation to determine the percent soil moisture, which is called gravitational soil moisture.